show you next how to create some pine trees. There's so many different shapes and sizes of pine trees. You can't do anything incorrect with them. I'm going to show you two different ways of doing them. The fun part about creating a painting is you get to have fun deciding on where you're going to place them. Maybe there's a few, these could be evergreen trees, pine trees. I'm going to place in a couple right here just to have some fun. I'm using a 1-inch brush, and I've actually loaded with black, Van Dyke Brown, and sap green, and I've just made a chiseled edge, very sharp edge, by pressing flat. Maybe there's another one that lives here. Maybe there's a couple here. Up there, I'm going to cover up probably my favorite part of the mountain. But I'm just touching very lightly with the tip, the edge of the brush. Let's do another one. Maybe there's a little baby one that's a tall one. Let's do a tall one that lives right there. Now when I come down towards the lay of the land, that's how I create how tall it's going to be and where it's going to end. So I'm just doing that, touching with the edge of my brush. I back up north, they have these beautiful trees that I call arborvitaes. So if I come and touch outside of this, moving my arm side to side, very lightly, holding the bristle vertically, it creates beautiful arborvitaes or pine trees. The key to this is lots of thick paint. There we go. So you're just touching on the canvas, creating lots of texture. And of course, and using a light pressure, the highlights are what really bring them to life. So because I'm using oils, I'm starting with the dark and a little bit of linseed oil with that, just to thin it down a bit, make it easier. There we go. Now usually trees are wider at the base, so that's why I'm moving my arm further to the side when I get down to this grassy area that I've created. Yeah, let's see, maybe there's a little baby one that lives there. And another little baby one. There we go. Now they're different heights, that's what I'm looking for to know whether I'm doing it correctly. And they're different as far as widths apart from each other. That's also an indication that you're doing it correctly. Remember, everything in nature is different. So the more you can stop yourself from being such a perfectionist, it was very hard for me to do that, the more natural everything will appear to be in your paintings. Now the more you touch over top of the thick paint, the more it smudges it, so don't forget to make sure that you're doing it. Make sure that you're using light pressure. Okay, and I just keep going, creating more. Fill them in. Because this paint stays wet for a long time, usually it takes weeks, depending upon the medium that you use. You may be fighting to put the dark on. So you can wait till it dries and do some more. There we go. Now because I use the same shade, do you see how it looks like it's all one? But when I go over top of it with highlights, it will that's when you can make it look different or separate. Now I'm tapping into some paint, the same colors, black, blue, and green, to create bigger, taller pine trees. Now if I use the front half of my 1-inch brush and just come up here and decide on how tall, maybe there's one that's only this big, and I start coming and moving my arm left to right to create a big, huge pine tree. There we go, we'll fill this in, this whole left side of it. As long as this is solid, I can't see through the paint. That's going to add a lot of depth to it. And I think I'll put in a tree trunk in a minute. And let's put a big one in, great big one. This one you probably, if you're doing big ones, you probably won't breathe while you're doing them. It's very hard for me to breathe. Maybe there's one that lives right here. I just decide how tall it is, and I'm using the front half of my brush. And I'm just moving side to side. Now I'm going into the snow of my mountains. They're not quite dry yet, so it makes a lighter value. I'm basically just filling this in, but my brush is horizontal the whole time. I'm pressing harder when I get to the bottom.